Don't forget to like and subscribe.
What is good, nomads, internet peoples in general? How's it going, Major Nomad here? It has been a bit since I have done a little bit of reaction content or reaction to some of the goofiness and the BS from around gaming, gaming news, entertainment, etc. So I thought I'd get back into it. It's been a while, and I wanted to give my 2 cents and takes on it. I'm a little late with some stuff, but I kind of wanted to wait and see more what this game and the people, Sucker Punch, and the people involved in this game, what else shocking they would do, and nonsense that would happen within this game and whatnot, and wait for it to come out to see if it turned out to be not that great of a predecessor to Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote. But so far, from what I've seen through social media, TikTok and whatnot, gameplay and the gameplay mechanics and whatnot look good. Look, even some say a bit better than Ghost of Tsushima, the original game. But what it falls under and lacks is, of course, one of the big main things is the voice actress being quite unpleasant and a goofy woke Looney Tune liberal character. And I'm all I'm all for this, separate the art from the artist, which I can usually do, but it's kind of hard to a degree, and it makes you not want to do that when you got to deal with somebody who is about that, an Antifa, known terrorist and anarchist, causing issues for people that don't agree with her opinions, political takes, etc. Which, hey, I'm all for. Why can't we all just get along and, be able to discuss and debate respectfully political opinions without using emotion ad hominems and whatnot just because somebody agree or disagrees with your political takes and opinions and or facts on the political landscape of America and the West in general. But as you can see, always on the left side, that usually cannot happen. And of course, with the recent tragedy of Charlie Kirk, they obviously put fuel on that fire, which wasn't that smart of a move. And not for nothing, I wasn't too much or a really big fan or so of Charlie Kirk that I agreed and disagreed with a fair amount of his takes and or opinions, politics, and whatnot. But one thing I really liked about him, and I definitely give respect for that, he always had the ability to debate respectfully and with mine, even if he was most likely correct or incorrect about some things. But he always debated respectfully and with intelligence and not emotion, and I gotta admire that, whether you like him or not, whether you were kind of neutral like me or so. Still was very upsetting what happened to him. Just wanted to get that out there. But let's get started with this, into this dumpster fire, before we go on to more. Now, this is a little bit old, but I liked reading this when it first came about and when people were reacting to this too, when this was such a big thing. Erika Ishii, the main actress, who I'm not quite fond of because, like I said, she disagrees and doesn't like certain people's and political party differences of opinion. She basically hates your guts, most likely, and wants you to die. I liked what Legal Mindset did because, Trump recently, the President Trump recently just had it where Antifa was considered now legally a terrorist organization, and now what he said, hope she enjoys her assets frozen. Like, yeah, I wonder if anything like that has happened. I don't think she or anyone else a part of that really not so great organization has had that happen yet. But I know finally with the recent thing with immigration, not to go too much into politics, but ICE coming to these blue cities like Illinois and whatnot, which FY I'm happy about because Illinois definitely needs to get cleaned up. Not as much for the illegal immigration to a degree, but as much as a lot of the trouble and whatnot that's been going on because due to lazy politicians, both the governor and the mayor especially, I'm definitely calling them out. But I don't know if anything like that has happened. I'd be interested to see, but so far, from what I'm hearing, they just most likely been dealing with ICE, like getting in trouble with that, getting locked up. I definitely saw the meme of the one Antifa person looked like he was scared to shit, looked like he was about to pee himself when he got caught by ICE Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and he was in lockup looking like he was about to freaking put on his shitting pants, like Negan would say from The Walking Dead. But besides the point, I digress. I like this comment. This comment is funny. And, as much as I'm not too fond of this person, I will say, hopefully, she is happy in her relationship with her wife and there's not any of those situations come about. Maybe this was she got caught on something or fell a certain way and landed on like a rock or something. Rocks can be very deadly when you're not watching your step, especially when you fall onto it, whether it's any part of your body. So I would hope none like that comes about, but that definitely raises some questions, complete with lesbian domestic violence bruises. And, funny, interesting take about that, which I'm not too sure, I have to look more into, but apparently domestic violence cases, there's been a lot of studies and statistics of lesbians being the most prominent in domestic violence more than like regular heterosexual relationships, which I'm not too sure about. I have to look more into it, but if that's the case, that's not the way you should be handling your differences. And I'm not too much for this, but haven't they ever heard of couples counseling or some kind of thing to whatever happened to stress balls, per se, when you're angry and stressed? Or walking away from this situation and coming back at it later when there's a big time argument, when it gets too heated, where you have to walk away and take a few minutes to yourself. I digress, but yeah, I'm not touching that garbage game. I made up my mind, maybe if it's free to play or so, I would give it a go, but I don't think I want to give money to people who hate my guts because, as I said, my political opinion and takes, even though I'm more center-right than anything, because I say both politics, two sides of the similar coin, even though a certain side of politics is a bit better than more of the left side, but when it gets too much to the right, when it comes to when they put religion into politics and stuff like that, that's when I'm like, you kind of lost me there. Or when it comes to us or them costing money for the country just because they don't like, say, marijuana dispensaries. And I think, my 2 cents, it makes a lot of money for the country. I just want to get this out there too before we get more into this, even though I wasn't going to plan on talking too much on politics, but I'm all for the country making a lot of money and certain things being okay in society. But, with the right pretenses and then not being out of control. But that's my 2 cents and takes on this. Okay. Always the same look. Facts. Oh, man, I love these memes. Twitter memes are freaking undefeated. Let me see some more here. Bro, I would never show my face in public again if I came out looking like this. Okay, now to the main point. I wanted to get a little more into this, but this is funny. Oh, yeah, right here where the president talks about many U.S. patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major. Yeah, he recently did that, so, not that I give too much thought, even though to a degree, of course, but I don't give too much thought or energy in the politics because at the beginning and end of the day, they don't really, both sides of politics maybe make it a little easier and better for you, but they personally don't do you any favors. You gotta look out and build yourself up. No one's gonna do it for you, so either way, this is why I have my certain takes on politics and I don't go out of my way to give that much of a damn because, hey, either way, it doesn't do too much to, help me out or so, even though to a degree, it kind of does, but then at the same time, the rest is up to you. So it just makes it a little better. But of course, with my vote in the 2024 election, so far I have not been completely disappointed. I've been happy with my vote. And of course, being center-right and whatnot, conservative, it's been pretty fun so far seeing what's all happened in the recent few months of Donald Trump's presidency yet again. I digress. Now, here's what I wanted to react to. Ghost of Yote PlayStation puts Blockbuster back on the menu. The BBC reacted to. Not, if that's the case, not in the way they think. This has got me right here because recently Vera Dark talked about this. Shout out to her. Vera Dark was talking about this in her recent video, and I completely agree with her. And as well as, what would BBC know about gaming? Their news and that right now is so bad, takes in general, so out of touch with reality. Not to say all news networks are non-completely biased or so, but BBC takes it to a whole nother level. I mean, it's England in general, so you kind of understand why, because they don't have the exuberance of free speech, my 2 cents. And of course, they don't, and I feel bad for friends of mine in the UK that have to deal with a lot of the BS in their politics. Besides the point, though, PlayStation and PlayStation haters don't usually agree. Yeah, but there's one complaint or insult, depending on who you ask, that's been coming from both sides, where all the games, big budget single player blockbusters from in-house studios, have been the key to Sony's solo console success. Yeah, they do have very good exclusives for the most part. In PlayStation 4 days, fans got a steady stream of cinematic adventures, but that's felt more like a trickled since 2023 Spider-Man 2. Yeah, that it has. However, Sony's newest release, Ghost of Yote, is a return to its proven AAA format. BBC News Beat spoke to Nate Fox, a creative director at Sony's own studio Sucker Punch, about wait for the game and some of the reason behind it. Firstly, what took so long? Sucker Punch latest is a follow-up to 2020's feudal Japan set adventure Ghost of Tsushima, one of the last big PS4 exclusives releases from Sony. Very good game, by the way. Games do take a long time to make, so it's no small chunk of your life, says Nate. No, it isn't. With recent graphics, Unreal Engine, and other engines like that, and making it, I seen the ins and outs, well, not the ins and outs, but like the baseline of how a lot of games are made in that. It definitely takes a lot of patience and creativity and how to work it right where it turns out to be good, especially making sure there's no bugs on launch day. But a lot of even AAA companies have struggled with that. And, you know, I'm all for graphics and whatnot, and I like my game to be very beautiful and very good mechanics, especially the big thing is mechanics and not buggy when it starts. But I don't really like it when it should take that long. If that's the case, you should consider hiring more people or seeing if more people could volunteer to help point things out or something like that, is my only take. But to the main point, Ghost of Yote locates the action 100 miles north to the Honshu region, and the setting a few hundred years later to 1603. Oh, interesting. This time, the story follows Atsu, a female warrior, on a quest to exact revenge against the Yote Six, a group of warlords responsible for her family's murder. You know, I gotta say something real quick about that, and I kind of agree with this for the most part, but I do agree Sucker Punch could have done this better. A lot of people, if not continuing Jin Sakai's story and wanting to add like another layer and a good sequel to Jin Sakai, if it wasn't going to be him, a lot of people wanted Tomoe, which I agree with that too. Tomoe could have been an interesting choice to continue on Jin Sakai's story and when they were married, and maybe Jin Sakai was either kidnapped or killed, which would have been sad if it was a second option, or maybe something else where he got older or something happened in the battlefield, he passed away and she went to go get revenge or help out with other invading forces trying to take over, fight the island. Maybe not the Mongols, but somebody else. If they wanted to do a little more historical thing, that would have been understandable. And I completely get that. I would have personally liked that too. But the news story and whatnot with Atsu could have definitely worked. But the backlash with the voice actress not keeping her politics away from the game and just learning to keep more of her politics to herself. And, hey, if the game's all that great and everything, it's all up to you. Buy what you want, do what you want, your money, your choice. I just don't want to myself invest or fund the game to that degree because of these recent controversies and my dislike for people disliking me over my politics, but I digress. I would have loved to get more to the story and actually give it a fair chance and see what this game was all about, and if the story still was good enough to where I could personally, whether it's Jin Sakai or Tomoe not being the main protagonist, I could just let that slide and say, okay, I'm going to give this game a fair chance and see if it's all what it's cracked up to be. But nevertheless, that didn't turn out so well, as you know. But hopefully the people that got it enjoy it and are still happy with it regardless. But myself, no thank you. With a previous game to build on, it's not completely fresh but Nate explains the project is still a huge undertaking. Just having a new main character, for example, requires input from writers, animators, and character designers, to name just a few of the roles involved behind the scenes. There are many more. Although Sucker Punch has roughly 200 employees at its base near Seattle, many hundreds more work on its games. The credit for Ghost of Tsushima, for example, contained about 1,800 names. That's a pretty fair amount. Some of those will be from abroad or from outside companies that specialize in certain technical fields. Making a video game requires all sorts of different skills, from incredible technical people to people who are very driven by emotion, like our writing staff, says Nate. And these terms work in coordination like it's conducting an orchestra. Okay. You need to have all of the elements coming together. Nate says that dizzying number of elements can go into a single scene, from music to the programming that makes leaves blow across the screen at a pivotal moment. Oh yeah. I do like those cinematic scenes when you're about to fight somebody in the games. That is very nostalgic. And these teams have to have a sense of where they're going, says Nate. A sense of direction is something fans have accused PlayStation of lacking in the last few years. Well, they have. If nobody has noticed, a lot of people have called this out. Under its previous boss, Jim Ryan, the division launched development on 12 online multiplayer titles known as live service games in the industry. Some of the most famous examples, such as Fortnite, Roblox, and Call of Duty, keep players engaged for months and generate a huge amount of money. I don't even want to get started with Call of Duty, but I don't think, even though we already have those Call of Duty heads and tryhards and die-hard fans, it's not doing too good from what I've been hearing and seeing. Sony has had success in the space with the last year's Helldivers 2, but disastrous failure with Concord, yeah, that was a fiasco and a train wreck. They should definitely not take examples from Concord. Any game company or writer creators that take umbrage or take inspiration from Concord, I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole in general. There was stuff on that. I've been wanting to talk about it, but I just been like, I don't care that much. Let come what may. Other people already been, roasting the game, so I'm just gonna let people criticize and roast the game, and just people will enjoy that, and I don't need to dogpile on it, even though I had been tempted to. But who knows? Maybe if people want me to talk about it in the comments, let me know. Maybe I might say something on it and maybe react to why it became such a train wreck. Back to the article, which was taken offline just 2 weeks after its release. Yeah, that's got to be off the charts as bad. That's why I say big train wreck. It has since canceled multiple projects based on some of its popular series, including God of War and The Last of Us. Yeah, you could blame that on Neil Druckmann. Pursuing the multiplayer market as a strategy, Sony has admitted it's not entirely going smoothly, you think? But it's said some titles with online elements such as Gran Turismo and baseball game MLB The Show have performed well. The stars of its most recent promotional showcase were Sorrows, a follow-up to 2021's Returnal, and the long-awaited Wolverine game from Spider-Man maker Isomic, both single-player games. High-profile releases can be magnets for controversy, as Sucker Punch recently found when developers joke about the death of the right-wing American activist Charlie Kirk prompt a backlash. Yeah, that was in very poor taste, and like I said, even though I didn't completely agree with the guy, and I definitely admired him and had respect for him, that he would always debate respectfully, fairly, for the most part, even though some people would disagree with that. I think so. Only time he really lost me was a lot of the religious talk, because I don't believe in any of the Abrahamic religions, pagan for life and whatnot over here, but still, I could still give respect and admire a good debater in politics and other endeavors as well. Regardless, that's how you separate an art from an artist, when they don't hate you because you disagree with their religion, politics, or even what beer, other types of drinks and food they may like or dislike. I digress, but yeah, R.I.P. legend. The studio eventually fired the employee involved, and founder Brian Fleming told journalist Stephen Todiolo that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us when asked about it. I would hope so, even though a lot of people disagree with the Sucker Punch CEO if that is genuine or not, but I'm not going to say whether it was or was not. But yeah, mocking anyone's death, political, otherwise, whichever, unless they're a big scumbag in the earth, I could kind of see it, but against someone like Charlie Kirk, that's in really bad, poor taste. I'm going to keep it a stack. Unless he was like a genuine scumbag who wanted you deleted off of life in general, just because he disagreed with maybe your politics or so, then I guess understandable, but nah, Charlie wasn't like that. So, yeah, I gotta say, Big L. Not good. Some right-wing video game influencer have also attacked Ghost of Yote for featuring a female protagonist. Well, maybe it had more to do with the actress behind the protagonist. Ever think of that? Or maybe they didn't do the protagonist justice as well. Like, for example, I'm going to get into this more in a bit, but the looks and the beauty of the character. Now, I definitely understand a lot of the criticisms and wasn't necessarily too fond of Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I gotta say, at least they did the main protagonist justice. At least she was still attractive looking for the most part, and had a nice flair and uniqueness to her compared to Erika Ishii's character in Ghost of Yote. Yeah, you could kind of see where I'm going with this, and other people's that criticize the game's main protagonist. Nate, back to it though, I digress. Nate says it was an unconventional choice but key to the story the developers wanted to tell, of an underdog defying society's expectations. And that would have been fine if there wasn't a lot of controversy behind the voice actress. As the game progresses, Atsu's reputation as an Anryo, a vengeful spirit found in Japanese folklore, very cool folklore, grows. The people think there's no way this woman could have taken out members of Ghost of Yote 6 unless she is supernatural creature, says Nate. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it a stack with this one. This is to BBC in general, but here's what I got to say. Reading this article felt like ordering a steak but getting a tofu burger. I'm gonna be honest. Nomads. All right, I want to talk more about this BBC article for just a second because wow, that read an articles like someone's mom tried to explain Call of Duty after watching one TikTok. Nah, you can tell right away when the mainstream outlet like BBC News steps into gaming. It's like watching your English teacher review a metal concert. They get all the surface detail, but completely miss the vibe and the whole baseline in general. Every time these folks cover a gaming story, and even a few others, let's keep it a stack, they talk about it like it's a sociology paper. The gamers are definitely upset and not too happy. The discourse is polarized. The community is divided. Yeah, welcome to the internet, Sherlock. That's unfortunately every Tuesday around here. What gets me too is how they act like they're the voice of reason in the space, but of course they're clearly not. Understand they'll quote a few tweets, toss in buzzwords like they usually do, and people on the left, I digress, like toxic fandom and call it a journalism. It's like they wrote it between tea breaks without ever booting up a console. And here's the kicker too, nomads. BBC pretending to speak for gamers is like CNN trying to review a NASCAR race. You just know they're going to get lapped. Am I right? The article tone basically says gamers are overreacting and we're here to tell them what they should think. But see here that's the problem. We don't need gatekeepers from newsrooms that think FPS stands for feelings per second. You see what I did there? On another note, they don't get it. Gaming isn't politics to us. It's passion. A good entertainment outlet. But the media can't resist dragging it back into culture war because outrage drives clicks to them. And as you can see, it is what it is. Look at all the other news they cover. So yeah, BBC, we don't appreciate you trying to join in on this conversation, but next time, maybe let someone who actually played a game write about one. Until then, stay in your lane, which isn't that great of a lane to begin with. The Wi-Fi over there is slower anyway. Fix and upgrade your Wi-Fi too, from what I heard. Anyway, I don't expect much from BBC. They have their own bias and whatnot, as you know. So, it is what it is. Reading this was, yeah, you should have gone to more probing and more asking the real questions. Why would they hire somebody who thinks this way about politics, and why would you hire somebody who the voice actress itself has said, oh, I'm part of this organization and I hate these people, I don't want them to buy my game and whatnot, even though she didn't make it. But I would rather the other side of politics have to go take a hike or so, and I don't want their money, they could go shove it per se. They should ask those real questions, but of course they're not going to be neutral and unbiased. That's typical. Let me know in the comments And let me know what you think about that one. Okay, Nomads, here's more what I was alluding and talking about earlier with game design. And this person on Twitter, aka X, has definitely more of what me and other of the majority of gamers had in mind. Of course, this is a little bit, funny and satire-ish. Even if she looked like a fraction of this, like Eve or similar to Eve from Stellar Blade, I would be happy, but yeah, this is more how you portray a cool character, not like this. It's one thing to make them rugged and tough after coming from a battle. If this is the battle of revenge after coming in and out of that, her family being jumped and attacked by 6 of those antagonists. Still, though, we could still have a bit of beauty in games. Like, I would say a little bit better than Assassin's Creed Shadow's protagonist, but still make it a little rugged where she has some scars or so from her attack. If I don't feel the need to do this during a game, it's not worth playing. Okay, this is a bit of satire here, and I would hope not, but whatever floats your boat, I guess. I would rather just play the game and enjoy the gameplay than do any of that activity. Atsu is so ugly. Yeah. Over there, beauty, but when you get closer, it's like, do I really want my antagonist to look like that? And that could be on both sides, both a female and male character. I want them to at least be cool and attractive enough. I don't want them to be looking like they're hella busted. Because let's be honest, even back then, Japanese had a real pride and whatnot of their beauty, like the geishas, the samurais in general, a lot of the feudal warlords and warriors, and the culture even back then really cared about standards and beauty, and I definitely gotta give respect to that as well. Not everyone had to be a 5-star model doing a runway show or so, but they at least were attracted enough to make sure they aligned with the strongest warrior if they wanted to be married to one of the strongest samurai warriors, etc. And to find a husband, especially during that time when there was a lot of battle and infighting between Japanese lords and other samurai. I digress. Yeah, maybe on the surface level, the game's problem is beyond just character design, but the story, the writing, the level design, all very mid compared to Ghost of Tsushima. And I kind of see the point and take on this. Like, guess I'm biased because I played more Ghost of Tsushima, even though I seen clips and a little bit of gameplay of Ghost of Yotei, which looked good, but I guess Ghost of Tsushima has that one popular charm that this game hasn't. One, it's a video game, so we don't want to get into real-life scenarios. We want to kind of escape for that, but this game doesn't have actors in that who really put a lot of their political takes in the game and disliked the people buying the game despite their political takes and other opinions and whatnot. So that's definitely a big plus where they're not hating random people for any of that or disliked those type of people and don't want them investing and buying in their game, which you shouldn't really alienate yourself for that. You should just be able to distinguish that and make your art and walk away and separate yourself from that kind of endeavor and that kind of situation. I digress. This game could have been easily fixed if it wasn't for activists. Exactly. Okay. I pretty much agree with that. Let me read a couple more. Has nothing to do with gamers / activists. This first picture is a fantasy. The second one is a realistic. Has gone for second in the West, probably due to good sales from Naughty Dog, Sony, SM, etc. It's a style, not gamer / activist. A bit disagreed there. The face, absolutely. The cleavage is a bit much, but would be, yeah, I kind of agree with that, but would be nice option to expose cleavage or not. Yeah, that would be cool if it was like an option. I completely agree with that. I just want the main female characters in those AA games to look pretty again, not some botched looking all straight men are evil unattractive girl boss for It's Getting Old. Yeah, and we don't really like that either. That's like a big turn off, especially if you want to sell to a big masses of people in majority. You gotta have happy mediums, if anything. My 2 cents. Now definitely let me know what you think about that one. Okay, Grums, who I definitely agree with and who has a lot of good takes, is right here where he called out this goofy goober. If you can't stand women in video games this year, sucked for you. Okay, buddy. And his response, and I completely agree with that, he speaks for me as well. This is a lie they tell to try to make people hate you and gaslight, which, newsflash, we're not falling for it. I unfortunately myself have dealt with narcissists and gaslighters over time of partially or even to a certain extent and degree, even if it was a small time frame of dealing with a lot of ungrateful, narcissists, egotistical, and among other things, annoying people who I wanted cut out of my life. I dealt with enough of that, so you're going to have to do a lot better gaslighting than that, my friend. Your BS gaslighting isn't going to hold a candle to what me and others have to deal with it. So, yeah, we want to have a good game to walk away and be temporary away from the real world. So, you could go kick rocks, my 2 cents. Here's the thing, though. Game devs and devs have had zero problem with women in games since the beginning. Facts. We do have a problem with shallow, lecturing girl boss Mary Sue's who hate men and virtue signal their lesbianism not for the sake of the story, but to promote a hateful anti-men, anti-family ideology with thinly veiled propaganda. Stop telling the lie. We see what you are doing. You lied trying to get people canceled or worse. We all see where that road eventually leads to. Yep, couldn't agree more. Stop telling the lie. We all see what you are doing. You lie to try to get people canceled or worse. We all see where that road eventually leads. Yep, exactly. I couldn't agree more, as I said. And yeah, Silent Hill, I still have yet to try and play that game, but the Silent Hill character, her character design wasn't too bad, I gotta say. Not too bad, I liked it. And right here, these ones, couldn't agree more. Way better options, especially, don't even let me get started. What my top 3 favorite female protagonists of Resident Evil: Jill Valentine, Ada Wong. Sometimes it goes more because I'm a little more partial to Ada Wong, but Jill Valentine's new look and character design, magnifico. And of course, you can't sleep on Rebecca. I was going to say Claire Redfield, even though Claire's nice and everything, but I don't know. I just am a little more partial towards Rebecca. I don't think she gets enough, justice. She should definitely get more roles and more design in video games, and she should have like a game to herself, or maybe do like a Resident Evil 5 situation where Rebecca and maybe another character team up together and you could decide to be like Resident Evil 5, like how you got to play as Chris Redfield or Sheva. Definitely let me know. I think that would be very cool. Have another game similar to that, but better designed or made, or have it where they have their own separate story, kind of like Resident Evil 2 kind of did, the Resident Evil 2 remake. That would be very nice. But that's all I had. Like and subscribe if you mess with my content and commentary on this, and I will catch you all next time.